Hello, everyone. Welcome to the U.S. Immigration News. President Donald Trump has signed a sweeping new executive order that significantly expands travel restrictions on foreign nationals. The move that's already sparking controversy across the globe, the announcement made from the White House briefing room earlier this week, introduces a full entry ban on citizens from 12 countries and imposes partial suspensions on travelers from 7 more. The proclamation is set to take effect at precisely 12:01 a.m. on Monday, June 9th. Let's break down exactly what this means, who it affects, and why it's triggering such strong reactions both at home and abroad. If you are liking this video, please hit the bell button, subscribe, and like it so that you may get updates straight to your smartphone. Now let's get into the video. The White House says these actions are justified by national security concerns. Administration officials point to what they describe as inadequate identity management protocols, subpar vetting capabilities, and a lack of cooperation from the listed countries when it comes to accepting deported nationals. In the president's words, these nations fail to meet the minimum baseline requirements for security-related information sharing. Without this cooperation, the administration argues, it becomes increasingly difficult to determine whether individuals from those countries pose a potential threat. President Trump referenced a recent violent incident in Boulder, Colorado, as a justification for the order, warning of the dangers posed by foreign nationals who may have slipped through gaps in vetting. However, it's important to note that the suspect in that attack was not from any of the countries included in this new ban. Still, the administration is using that case, and others, as part of its broader narrative about tightening borders and reasserting control over immigration pathways. Under the terms of this new order, the United States will now fully bar entry to nationals from Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, the Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. These individuals will be prohibited from obtaining both immigrant and non-immigrant visas. That includes family reunification, student visas, and employment-based petitions. In short, unless they qualify for a narrow exemption, they will not be allowed to enter the United States in any capacity. 7 additional countries, Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela, are facing partial restrictions. These restrictions apply to certain categories of immigrants and temporary visitors, such as those seeking specific work or tourist visas. In Venezuela's case, the limitations focus primarily on government officials and their immediate families, though broader categories are affected as well. This move has ignited a firestorm of political reaction. Supporters of the order say it is a strong, necessary action that prioritizes American safety and restores integrity to a system that has been, in their view, too lenient for too long. They argue that in an age of rapidly evolving threats, from international terrorism to organized crime, immigration must be approached through the lens of national security. But critics see something very different. They point to the familiar pattern established during Trump's first term, when similar travel bans were issued, most famously the 2017 executive order that was widely dubbed a Muslim ban. That order was challenged in court for months, eventually making its way to the Supreme Court, which upheld a modified version of the policy. Now many see this new executive order as an extension of the same philosophy. One they argue targets predominantly non-white, non-Western nations under the guise of security concerns. Human rights advocates, immigration attorneys, and civil liberties groups have already begun mobilizing, calling the policy discriminatory, arbitrary, and likely unconstitutional. Several legal challenges are expected to be filed in federal court within days of the order taking effect. Meanwhile, international leaders from some of the affected countries are demanding explanations and pushing back diplomatically, accusing the U.S. of punishing ordinary citizens for the shortcomings of their governments. In response to these concerns, the White House is emphasizing the presence of specific exemptions within the order. U.S. lawful permanent residents, that is, green card holders, will not be affected, nor will individuals traveling on diplomatic visas, those who hold dual nationality and travel on a passport from a non-banned country, or athletes and other special classes approved on a case-by-case basis. Students already in the U.S., medical professionals contributing to the public health system, and individuals whose entry is deemed in the national interest may also qualify for exceptions. The administration also says the list of banned or restricted countries is not set in stone. According to senior officials, the U.S. will conduct periodic reviews, and countries that improve their vetting procedures or increase information-sharing cooperation with U.S. authorities could be removed from the list. That's a major distinction from the earlier travel bans, which were more open-ended and less transparent in their criteria. Still, the rollout of this latest order has left many immigrant communities on edge. In cities across the United States, families are once again scrambling for answers, fearful that loved ones overseas will be unable to visit, reunite, or even flee dangerous conditions due to the new restrictions. Advocacy groups are warning of a repeat of the chaos that followed earlier bans when travelers were stranded at airports, families were separated, and critical humanitarian cases were delayed or denied outright. And there's an economic component to consider as well. Experts say the new restrictions could affect international business ties, academic research exchanges, and even the medical workforce, particularly in underserved communities that rely on international doctors and nurses. U.S. universities have also raised alarms, concerned that prospective students from affected regions may reconsider their plans or face visa denials even for programs already underway. From a geopolitical standpoint, this executive order is already rippling across diplomatic circles. Several African and Middle Eastern nations have summoned U.S. ambassadors to explain the rationale behind their inclusion on the list. Some foreign ministries are openly questioning the timing and motivation of the ban, particularly as the global migration crisis continues to deepen due to conflict, climate change, and economic instability. For President Trump, this move reinforces one of the core themes of his campaign and presidency: immigration control as a central pillar of national policy. With the 2026 midterms approaching and Trump seeking to consolidate his base, the executive order sends a strong message that he is still pursuing the hardline immigration stance that helped define his political brand. But for many others, immigrant families, legal scholars, international allies, the message is far more concerning. It suggests a U.S. policy approach that prioritizes isolation over engagement, restriction over reform. What happens next? That depends in part on how the courts respond to the legal challenges that are sure to follow. It also hinges on whether the affected countries take concrete steps to satisfy the administration's requirements, or whether they retaliate diplomatically or economically. Already there are murmurs of reciprocal bans and strained alliances. As for ordinary Americans, this executive order may not seem immediately impactful. But over time, policies like this reshape how the world sees America, who it welcomes, who it shuts out, and what it values in its relationships with the global community. We'll continue to follow this story closely, bringing you updates as new details emerge, court rulings are issued, and real-world consequences begin to unfold. That's all we have for this bulletin. The U.S. Immigration News Channel provides all necessary visa information and procedures for your U.S. immigration journey. It is important to understand the United States immigration processing steps, visa application requirements, processing times, forms, fees, and more. We will continue to provide all information about U.S. visitor visas, such as B1 and B2, work visas such as L1A, L1B, and H1B, student visas, green cards, immigrant visas, EB1, EB2, EB3, EB4, and EB5, and family immigrant visas. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the U.S. Immigration News Channel. Thank you for watching. and we'll see you in the next video.